Welcome to Shattered Reality with your hosts Kate Valentine and Fahrusha. Prepare to have your paradigms shifted and your truths questioned. And now, Shattered Reality.
Well, another day, another interview. How you doing there, Fahrusha?
I'm just fine, Kate. It's so nice to be here with you on the Vernal Equinox.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I believe, well, it is the 21st. It's the official beginning of spring.
Mm-hmm.
And the 21st is usually the Vernal Equinox,
Mm-hmm.
which is when the days and the nights are exactly equal in length. Starting tomorrow, the days will be slightly longer every day until around June 21st, when
Right.
we have the summer solstice.
Right, and the long day.
And the longest day of the year. So we're at the quarter point of the year today. So as we have said, today is March 21st, 2017. We're slating. And it's great to be back here with you since our last podcast event.
Which was really quite an event.
Yes, it was. And we have gotten a number of comments on different sites and at different points. In fact, there was one I neglected to approve earlier today, but I'll do it later.
Yeah.
About our electronic voice phenomenon that we recorded.
The EVP.
EVP was totally surprising to us. It came. We record here on 3 channels. One for Kate, one for Fahrusha, that's me, and one for our valued guest. And we've had now. This is going to be the second Tom in a row. But last show's Tom was Tom Butler of A Trans C, which is an organization that works with people who have lost loved ones and finding electronic voice phenomena whereby they may speak to them. Well, we were very interested in what he had to say. And much to our astonishment, all 3 of us here at Shattered Reality Podcast, after Tom had hung up, his line was dead, Kate manifested, if you will.
Lucky moi.
Yeah, it's you, Kate. It's all about you. You manifested on your line an electronic voice phenomenon.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. That
Wasn't
was
it?
pretty amazing. Yeah, it was. You know, I played it for a few of my friends, and they have reported a similar incidents. What was it? Kathy was telling me about something on a GPS where a voice came out of the GPS. You're lost. You really have to go left, and her GPS in the auto was turned off, and her friend was riding with her, and said, "Yeah, I heard it too. You might as well go left." So they did. As it turned out, down the street, a major accident had just occurred. So you get these little stories from people once you tell them, "Look, this happened on the show," and they'll go, "Oh yeah, this happened to me," and then interesting.
Yeah, that is very uncanny. Well, ours didn't give us a message, but the people that I played it for who might have had some experience with the EVP phenomena when people were trying to get it to happen said ours was so clear. It was clear as a bell compared to the kind of scratchiness that goes on. So we hope that you'll listen to that. If you haven't listened to that already, it's episode 45, and our EVP is at the end of it. And we actually have removed the EVP from the recording, and we have it on our website separately. Okay.
Anyway, we have a wonderful guest with us today, I believe.
Yes, we do, and I'm going to introduce him now, I think. Yes. Oh, dear.
It's Mr. Tom Conwell.
Yes. We have today the ufologist Tom Conwell, who has been an electronic technician with the U.S. Navy and with Honeywell Incorporated for 42 years. He has been a Honeywell temperature control, fire, alarm, and security software specialist, a biomedical engineer, and he is a Fire Alarm Level 2 certified, a meteorologist, and an HVAC engineering resource. Tom has wide-ranging expertise with a keen awareness of physics, computer, and internet
wasn't me.
Internet software, and a broad knowledge of electronics and how it intersects with the paranormal world and UFOs. So Tom remains a vital scientific resource on extreme paranormal encounter response team and embraces the wealth of information and theories that embody the title of ufologist. So welcome, Tom Conwell.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
That's great. It's been a long time since we've spoken to someone about UFOs.
Yeah, it's been a little while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has been. So, Tom, in my experience, it's sort of all dried up in the last few years. Have you found that to be true, or have you seen some interesting sightings lately?
Okay, you broke up in the very beginning
I'm sorry.
of your question. Can you give that to me again?
Sure. I was saying that the number of sightings recently has really gone down considerably. I was wondering if you had any I guess you're up in the Albany type area, if you had seen anything new up there.
I personally have not.
Mm-hmm.
I got sick in January, and I've been sort of out of the loop for quite a few months, but I'm back in the mend, and I haven't had an opportunity to go look, just to go outside and scan the skies, like I had been. Now, I have not noticed that there's a major drop-off in sightings. There is a very slight drop-off, however. The type of sightings that are prevalent around here in upstate New York is the ones that look like balls of fire. They're actually spheres, and a lot of people call them spheres. Some people will call them fireballs, and that's not to be confused with a meteor, which is also a fireball. And there's quite a few sightings of that in the upstate New York area and in the southern New York area down around New York City, especially in Long Island. And the other place is out near Buffalo, which is bordering Lake Erie. Right. So, there's plenty of sightings out that way, and probably more than you a reasonable person would consider reasonable. I mean, there's just so many, it's incredible.
Let me ask you something about the fireballs. Now, we've all seen shooting stars, which are a type of meteor coming into the atmosphere. And then there's a second type of fireballs, which are called the February fireballs, which have extended in past years into March. Now, the February fireballs, astronomically, are thought to be also meteors, but they're much bigger, much more fiery, and they seem to appear to move more slowly through the atmosphere than the smaller shooting stars. Back in 2010, I think it was. Maybe it wasn't 2010, but it was about 5 years ago in any case. I saw one of these giant February fireballs, but it was on March 5th, and I did report it to the NUFOC, the website which you use to look for some of your phenomena, I believe. And they said that it was indeed a meteor fireball which had been seen entering the atmosphere as far away as Sweden. It swept over the ocean, passed over Greenland and Newfoundland, came down, passed over Connecticut, and passed over me in the New York, New Jersey area where I did see it, and it glowed green and had a tail. And I thought it was the end of the world, frankly. I thought it was going to come down right near me and set everything on fire. But apparently it finally came down somewhere around West Virginia. So now you're talking about a third kind of fireball, or are we speaking about the kind of what were called the February fireballs.
Okay. Well, many times fireballs are confused with meteors. Meteors will strike the Earth at between 30 and 60,000 miles per hour. And the actual amount of time that it would take for someone to see it, the meteor would disappear within 3 to 4 seconds. Sometimes, depending on how the angle of the meteor that hits the ground hits the atmosphere, a person may see it for possibly up to 10 seconds. What I was referring to in the fireball is a ball of fire in the sky that goes very, very slowly, very similar to what an airplane travels, and will make a course correction and perhaps then disappear. But it would take quite some time for this to occur with someone looking at it from the ground. It may take perhaps 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. The ones that I saw lasted about 7 or 8 minutes.
Wow.
And this wasn't a meteor, believe me, anything but. The actual actually seeing this thing, I got a good look at it through a pair of binoculars, and seeing it, it almost looked like a fake fire.
When was this sighting of yours? Can you maybe start from
roughly
the beginning about the sighting, your specific sighting?
Okay, the sighting occurred, I'm doing by memory here, I believe it was the middle of May of 2013.
Uh-huh.
And I had seen two come over the house, and I saw them from the back of the house, but I wasn't getting a good look at them. So I walked through the house and went to the front, and in the front, they were like really visible. They were about the size of the moon, or perhaps even the size of your thumbnail at an arm's length. And they were roaring balls of flame, although they made no noise. And they traveled across the sky and angled upward and disappeared behind clouds. Now, there were groups of them that came through in an echelon formation. Two came through initially, and I just saw the end of that. Another two came through, and then another two came through, and then there was a single one. And then there were two more groups of two, but I got an idea of where they were sort of coming from, and I was hoping that they weren't going to just go away at that point, because I was staring at the sky, and they just appeared from black sky to brilliant orange, just popped right on in the sky as I was looking right at the spot in the sky where they were coming from. It was just remarkable.
Wow.
Just remarkable.
Wow. That almost makes me think of something that would be interdimensional rather than like something akin to a chemical rocket coming into view.
This wasn't a rocket. And there wouldn't have been 11 of them following each other, all making exactly the same precise maneuver. In interdimensional, I guess it's possible, but they are seen so many times around the world, and especially along the East Coast, that I doubt if they're parading like this from an interdimensional way. I think they are pre-programmed to appear in the sky to do these things, and they may even be drones. No, I don't mean the drone you buy in Walmart. I don't mean that. I meant that they may be pilotless craft that are run by who knows who. And I would not be surprised to see that. Actually, I wouldn't, because everyone that came through ran exactly the same
course,
the same path, and changed in exactly the same spot in the sky. and they all did the same thing. All 11 of them.
So this sighting that you had caused you a greater interest in the UFO phenomena. Now, can you tell us what Extreme Paranormal Encounter Response Team is?
Yeah, we are a paranormal group, and what we do is we will go to homes and investigate the paranormal, and take, well, EVPs, of course. And we will do that, and we have been doing that for quite some time. But I'm also a ufologist, and have turned into a ufologist since I retired about 10 years ago. And also on our team, we have 3 psychics, and we have a Bigfoot specialist, one who has been published multiple times. So we have quite a talented team.
Wow.
So, Tom, you've been, even though you probably got into this in a really intense way after you retired, it seems that your interest went way back, though.
Yeah, from a child,
Yeah.
I just knew
See?
that there were that there were actual UFOs in the sky, that they were real, that we were being visited. Don't ask me how, because back then there wasn't that kind of information around.
Yeah.
This was like the early 50s when I was a child. But I always knew that they were real, always.
Well, of all the people I've interviewed on the show, I have to say at least 95, if not 100%, really became interested as children, which makes me think that perhaps the people who have that really intense interest were in some way contacted as a child, and like you, just knew there was something out there and wanted to know what it was. So you're in with some very good company.
But you also had an Aunt Wilma, didn't you?
Aunt Wilma? I had
Yes.
an Aunt Wilma too, but she wasn't interested in this.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't have an Aunt Wilma. I did know a woman named Wilma, but let's
Yeah, I had a good friend in high school.
stop it. Well, sometimes we get into the comedy routines. But Tom, won't you tell us about how your Aunt Wilma sort of affected your growing up?
Okay. I had always been interested in the sky and space and whatever came along with that. And I found out when I was about 9 years old that my Aunt Wilma was I believe that she was the secretary for the Astronomical Association of America.
Wow, that's pretty
Now,
good.
Yeah, this was back in the 50s, okay?
Yeah, but what a
long time
great
ago.
source, and especially as a woman, that was really unusual back then.
Yeah. So she realized that I had been trying to absorb all the information that I possibly could about the sky, and she showed me her publications, which were from the Astronomical League, and I just ate them up. I mean, I just loved reading them, and so she offered to take me on a trip with her to an annual conference.
Mm-hmm.
And we went on that trip, and the people were great. They realized, hey, this is some kid who's really interested. So they were interested in me and really helped me out. So it was great. It was great being with everyone, and they were all willing to give me all the information that they could possibly give me. And that's what really, really piqued my interest. I mean, that was the number one item right there.
And not only that, but they didn't put it down and say, well, you're just a ridiculous child. They encouraged you. That's huge.
They
Huge.
absolutely did. They absolutely did. And that I probably kept my wishes to learn more all the way through my life. Mm-hmm. And even today, I'll take online courses. I mean, I'm 70 years old, but I'll still take online courses because I just have an insatiable desire to learn.
Well, that's wonderful.
Do you think we'll ever find out, Tom? Because I'm up there with you, too. And, it just annoys me that you spend all this time and you just never going to find out. What do you think?
Well, I think that we are right now in the throes of a disclosure. It's happening really slowly, but they are trying to get us to think that, oh, well, we have lots of planets out there, and it's possible. And then they talked about a couple of stars that were that had weird light anomalies around them, and they said, well, maybe this is a Dyson sphere around this star, where an extraterrestrial civilization built a structure around the star to absorb all the energy from it, and they're just releasing little tiny bits of stuff just to get people to think, well, okay, maybe there are, and eventually they will just transition right into it, and people will be coming down from the skies, and it'll be just like every day.
Well, I remember in grade school, they would tell you there is no such thing as planets outside our solar system.
I didn't believe them.
Well, it sounded ridiculous to me, and now you have all these extrasolar planets, and like you said, the Goldilocks zone and all that business. But maybe. And then there's also, I know a lot of ufologists have like a Hollywood-type conspiracy, like Spielberg was releasing information in a friendly manner, like E.T., to get us used to the idea of a friendly alien race as opposed to some of the more nasty ones. Remember the sci-fi movies of the 50s? That would scare the dickens. But now they're sort of friendly and ET-ish or advanced, and So you're right. I think there may be a slow but sure release.
Well, what you've been doing here, Tom, is you've been characterizing the different types of sightings, and then you've also been sectioning off portions of the United States by state, and seeing. Explain to us what you've been doing. I see clearly here you have 7 different types of sightings that are comprised like cigar, roughly the shape of a cigar, cylindrical with no wings, very large and able to hover. That would be the number 1 type that you have characterized. But you've also cut up the U.S. into sections. Why don't you tell us your methodology there?
Yeah, I poured over the right way to go about this for quite some time, and the reason was when I first started going through all of the databases. I of course started with my home state because I wanted to do some talks about UFOs. So I thought, well, let me try to get some information from here. Well, I realized very shortly. After starting reading the database, that there were about 50 different types of things seen in the sky. 50. Now, if I tried to put 50 on a graph, it would look ridiculous. So what I did was try to get the major ones where the most kinds of sightings were seen, break it down into 7 groups, and then I could create a graph that at least when you look at the graph, you're going to be able to extract some information from it. I also realized at that point, even though I did it this way, that it's possible that I was going to have to take one of the 7 groups that I created and break that down even further. I just didn't know what was going to happen. So I broke them down into 7 groups, put them into these categories, and then created graphs from them. And then I was able to compare apples to apples. Even though there were different types, there was same quantity of sightings seen. And I could say, well, this is being seen here in this particular area more than anything else. So then maybe I could take one step further. Why are they being seen here? Okay. But anyhow, that's just how I started out. There were so many things to see that I just didn't know what to do. I broke them down, and there I had it. So after I did my first book, okay, I took some time off thinking, there's got to be a better way to give people a pictorial on what's actually being seen in the sky. So I decided to use a map with pins in it. I didn't realize what I was getting into. Oh my goodness.
Really?
So I had this big US map, and I started putting pins in it with the central US, which was my second volume. Eastern US being the first volume. So central US.
Tom, I'm going to stop you for 1 second and ask you to announce the names of your books and where they're available, because we may have people who are listening to this who want to acquire your books,
right,
which I'm sure you'll be happy about.
Sure. Okay. My books are entitled They Are Here. Volume 1 and Volume 2 so far. Volume 3 is being worked on now. They are available through Amazon. But if you were to make a request of me directly through my email, then I could sign it and send it to you, and I wouldn't charge you as much as Amazon would.
So you want to give us your email there for our listeners?
Okay, here it is. And this is confusing. Listen very carefully.
Okay.
TConwell with a number 2. Not 2 L's like my name is. TConwell 2 at nycap.rr.com.
Okay.
That's a long one. We might have to repeat that again.
Y'all, at the end of the interview, we'll repeat that again in the name of the book. The 2 books, going to be 3 books before long.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm sorry to have interrupted you, and I hope that you will find your space there where we interrupted you, and I'm so sorry.
He was saying the points on the map with the
points on the map. Yes, the push pins in the map that you had acquired of the United States. It became very crowded.
Mm-hmm. So what I did was I bought 3 different types of pins to try to get the ones seen most often. I realized that I wasn't going to be able to find 7 different types of pins, and also realized very early on that they were going to be impossible to put all those pins on the map. So I chose 3, and so I picked the states that had the fewest sightings, just so I could get a feel for it, like North Dakota and Kansas and Nebraska. And I worked my way down vertically from North Dakota. And by the time I got into Texas, then I knew that I was going to have my first really big problem around cities. What am I going to do with all these little pins around cities such as Dallas or Houston? They're just going to take up almost the whole state of Texas. So what I did was I got large pins, and the large pins equal 20 small pins. So I was able to compress the kind of area that I was covering in the states, and make it at least still seem reasonable. Well, that worked out for Texas. And it worked out for a few states, and I started heading back north again, slightly east of that, and I had my first problem in St. Louis. There were so many sightings that even with the big pins, they were expanding way out, and they were almost being unreasonable. There were so many of them. And I said, what am I going to do when I get near Chicago? Well, as I worked my way up, I realized that by the time I got around Chicago, I had to put in about 25 large pins. Remember, each large pin equaled 20 small pins. So I had to put around 25 big pins that took up a whole lot of coverage in Illinois, and it covered most of the northern portion of the state.
Oh my goodness!
Where were you getting these reports from, Tom? Like UFO organizations or private parties? Did you have a number for them to call in on?
Yeah, all from the National UFO Reporting Center.
Ah, that's a good one.
Yes, it is.
Is he still there?
And so that wasn't even the biggest problem. as I worked toward the east from there, I had my biggest problem in Ohio. And Ohio, it was just totally and completely covered with pins. Totally. I mean, you couldn't even see the state. And it's a pretty big state, you know?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
Cleveland.
I was able to at least create this map for my second book.
Okay.
Well, since then, I've gone back and filled in the map for the sightings in the first book. And I will have them and provide those sightings on a web page to people who purchase my book.
Cool.
You know, give them the web address, and then they can go in and look themselves in full color, and the maps will stand out, and they're actually very, very pretty. I tried putting them in a black and white format, figuring if I take a really good picture, this will work out fine. Well, it didn't. It did not work out fine. So that's why I had to go to the web page with full color maps.
I like the full color maps. You sent me some of them, and they are really beautiful. And you've done an incredible you've done yeoman's work here with
really.
this
Really.
characterizing the different types and put in a lot of effort and time that just can't be duplicated any other way. Can you possibly give us some idea of some of your most compelling reports that you've gotten? Like, say, maybe from one area the most compelling, and maybe a couple from another area, which you found to be the most convincing, compelling reports?
Okay. Some of the most interesting reports were out of Ohio, and there were sightings over top of a nuclear power plant. And this plant was at the far western edge of Lake Erie. And about 10 years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, there was an event that almost created this nuclear power plant to just blow sky high. And after that event, there were a tremendous amount of sightings of UFOs just hovering over top of the plant. That's the one that I found the most interesting, because apparently the ETs were familiar with what almost happened, and they took a look for themselves. Thought that was really unique.
Have you been in contact with Robert Hastings, who collects information about UFO sightings around nuclear power plants?
No, I have not.
Well, I think he would be very interested in the compilations that you have done vis-a-vis Ohio's nuclear power plant there, and the almost accident that occurred there, because he has done a lot of work about UFO sightings that have shut down nuclear launch places, missile launch sites, nuclear missile launch sites. So I think that he would find your work really compelling, and I think that you should try contacting him.
Excellent. Fahrusha, can you put his name in a email and send it to me?
Sure, will do.
Excellent. Okay, some of the others that I found, incidentally, just what you just said, some of the other really cool ones were from northern states like North Dakota and Montana. And this occurred in Book 2 from the central U.S. There were a lot of accounts of sightings from military people who saw UFOs, and they were hovering over their nuclear power plants, over their nuclear weapons, and they had gone so far as to actually shut down the power in some of these places. Some had even gone into retarget the intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Wow.
Yeah, retarget, if you can imagine it, retarget them so that they were sent to a different place. It really, really incredible stuff. Really incredible.
Very frightening, I might add.
Oh my, yeah. That caused severe consternation among the military elite. Let me tell you. And they sat up and noticed.
I bet.
I certainly did when you said that. I sat up and noticed right here.
Yeah.
So you found those sightings in Ohio compelling, and how about in our more local region that spans between New York, New Jersey, and Albany area where you are located? Anything compelling in that region?
Yeah, there's one actually several very interesting. They came from Buffalo area, where people would see these fireballs in the sky, and it looked like as they were looking out over Lake Erie, it almost looked like they were lowering themselves towards the water, and then they entered the water.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's several of those that I had come across. What was interesting there is because the Buffalo area had so many sightings of these fireballs, I couldn't help but notice that these ones that were going into the water and leaving the water, by the way, were possibly going to their home base. I would not be at all surprised if there was a underwater base in one or more of the Great Lakes.
That's what we would call a USO, right?
Yeah, right.
USO, yes.
Well, I was trying to think of the name of the fellow who wrote the book on that, and I can't place him. But yeah, that's very common occurrence. I'm sure people have asked you about these fireballs, if they're, like ball lightning or a electromagnetic phenomenon. And do you have any response to that?
Yeah, as far as the ball lightning goes, I think that they would not be ball lightning because they wouldn't go through the sky in a formation.
Oh, okay. Or change course.
Yeah, or change course. They'd probably either just fall or drift. Mm-hmm. And the ones that I saw and the ones that are noted throughout the various states in the National UFO Reporting Center, they did none of those things. Now, were they magnetic in origin? They could very well have been severely magnetic, and maybe that was part of their propulsion system. I wouldn't be surprised about that either.
Do you have any reports that they were in low enough altitude, actually near some of the less commercial airports, but still important ones, like around Buffalo and Albany? Any pilot reports at all of these?
There's loads of them.
Really?
What I did when I went through the sightings is I made notes for the ones that I thought were probably the most interesting, the ones that were seen by professional people, the ones that were seen by pilots, the ones that were seen by military people, and the ones that were seen by police. And these are the ones that are mostly shown within my book, Volume 1 and Volume 2, because these are the ones that are the most believable.
Right. Well, yeah. It was, all right, thanks, Bill. Carl Feindt, Feindt, was the name of the author of USOs. Great book, if you're interested in it. The reason I asked you about the sort of the ball lightning electrical phenomena thing was with the pilots. Had they noticed any change in their instrumentation while these things were close by their craft? I guess none that they reported. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it's possible that one or two of them had something happen that they would rather not say out loud.
Yeah.
Because you have 150 people in the sky, and you don't want to be saying I lost all my instrumentation. So I can sort of understand that, but as far as the accounts being similar to what happened in Iran with the one pilot who approached the UFO and everything went dead on him.
Right. In the Leslie Kean book, yes.
Yeah. And I don't think that very many sightings like that are happening, because I think that people realize I can't be approaching these things in the sky with my weapons loaded and things like that. So they pretty much stay to themselves as long as we don't approach them and force the issue.
Right. And I think that fellow's name was Jafari. Am I right?
Yeah.
You're
something
right. Yeah.
something like that, if not.
Yeah. Colonel Jafari or Captain, I can't remember which, but yes, Jafari, yeah. I couldn't recall his name. Thank you.
Well, so at this point, you're compiling your third group of sightings. What, if anything, and I'm not saying that you had to do this, but what, if anything, have you done about? Have you met some of the people who have reported these sightings, even locally?
Oh yes. One in particular told me about a sighting that she had. I just thought it was just so fascinating. The types of sightings are, discs and whatever else. But this lady said that she saw something that reminded her of a great big shoebox.
Huh.
Rectangular.
Huh.
And you know, how the heck does this thing fly? A great big long rectangular thing. It was about 1.5 miles long and went directly over her car at slightly above treetop level.
It was 1.5 miles long?
Yeah, and she had a wonderful view of this whole thing. And as this thing was nearing its end from her viewpoint, on the back side of it, there was an angle that popped out at 90 degrees that went out maybe another couple hundred yards.
Wow.
So it was shaped like an L.
Wow.
I just have no words for this.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she's a very credible witness, and she was very more than willing to talk about it and describe it and ask you if you wondered what you thought it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And in the National UFO Reporting Center, if you want to spend a couple of months of your life reading the reports, you will come across some of those like that.
Yeah.
Just enormous.
Yeah, you do. There was one, I think, up in Alaska quite a while ago, the same thing, like a large box-shaped object. And you wonder just really
how that is aerodynamically working.
It's not.
Yeah,
not at our present level of understanding. No.
Well, it's so strange.
No. George Filer had a theory about that. He thought that maybe these were all sort of like dirigibles. Dirigibles. Am I pronouncing that?
Dirigibles,
yeah. And that the military was sort of experimenting with various types of them. And possibly that's it, because I can't think of anything else.
Or they're from another world, another dimension of space and time.
There's no other planets, you know that.
Oh, boy. I never believed that. I always got in trouble as a grammar school student because I had a science fiction mind.
Yeah. Tom, you were lucky. You had your Aunt Wilma. The rest of us just got sent to our room and stopped talking nonsense.
Well, my father also believed in UFOs. I mean, he believed in the existence of UFOs. He believed that they did exist, and he actually built a sculpture which was an instrument to contact alien intelligences, and he felt that if he vibrated a copper basic shapes, this sculpture is a wooden board, and on it is mounted copper wires and then flat copper basic, what is it called, platonic shapes? Square, circle, triangle, maybe six-sided figure. I forget what the other one was. And he would hit them with a mallet alternately, and he felt that might be a kind of basic language, vibrating those shapes out to the UFOs. It sounds a little bit nutty on one hand, but he was trying, and he was sincere and interested. And so,
was he successful? That's
well, he thinks he was. I don't
really
know. Yeah, no, he was a real seeker in that regard.
Well, look at Tesla. Tesla was convinced that we were getting messages from maybe, or he thought Mars, but definitely not from this planet.
Oh, we're getting messages, all right. I'm getting some too.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, Tom, we get far afield sometimes.
Sorry, Tom.
Sorry, Tom. Yes.
Sorry.
So where are we going with this next? I mean, what is your next step here?
Okay, I'll tell you what I noticed in Volume 2 that I never expected.
Yeah.
I changed what I did in Volume 1 so that I would include the questions that were posed to me during abduction interviews. And what these questions were was I given a message, and what did this message consist of? And so I seem to I've come to find out that the messages that people were getting were directly related to the condition of our planet. In other words, are we polluting?
Yes,
that kind of condition. So I went from that premise and expanded it way out. So for each particular state, I looked at, is there some dumping that's going on in that particular state that shouldn't be?
Good idea.
Yeah. What is the air like in this state? Are they cutting corners? What about oil spills? Millions of gallons of dumping from fracking.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and then also added to our atmosphere is fossil fuels. Of course, we're burning gasoline, but the majority of the plants in the central U.S. are coal burning. And even though coal can be made to be cleaner, most companies don't really take that extra step because it's very, very expensive. So they just dump into the air. Then what about Air Force bases? Because there's a whole lot of sightings around Air Force bases. So I made notes within the book of every state that if there were Air Force bases, I want to make note of that.
Sure.
Then I also noticed that the Native Americans had something to do with contacting what they thought were their gods from the skies.
Star people, yes.
Yeah. So I looked into every single state, what Indians settled there, and if they had any stories of ancient gods. Well, I came across one up in the upper Lake Michigan area. of a, it was called the Seven Fires Prophecy. Look that one up, because the Seven Fires Prophecy has all come true. And the seventh fire, which we are in right now, the seventh fire may relate to the fact that we are polluting our planet badly, and that the planet is due for a reset.
Yeah, I think we're in the midst of the fifth great extinction on this planet, and
Yes.
We're losing a lot of species, etc., when it's really not necessary, when we could have a wind power and solar power powering a lot of our things. We had on our episode number 40, Dr. Artie Six Killer Clark, who reported on a lot of the Native American stories about star people, and both today on the reservation and off the reservation. So that's another connection for you regarding that. But yeah, I think that a lot of the contactees, particularly, and the abductees to a lesser extent, get the ecological message from the beings from wherever they're from. I want to say from space, but we don't really know if they're from space or elsewhere, or whether they're from a different dimensional plane and may live here on the Earth with us. And that would make a lot of sense if they're concerned about the ecology of the Earth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. I had my eyes open when I did the research for this book, let me tell you, because I never expected to find the things that I found. With the ancient gods and the stories of the Indians that were exactly coincidental with the ancient Sumerians and the Egyptians and the Dogon tribe,
Yes.
and tribes in Australia and South America, all happening right around the same time, which was after the Second Great Flood.
That's a really good. That's good that you put those two together. That's excellent.
Yeah, it shocked me. It really did.
Yeah.
It totally shocked me. And if you know Dr. Rita Louise, I don't know if you know her or
Yes,
not.
I don't know
Yes.
her personally, but
Yes.
I certainly know of her, yes.
We have talked at great length about lots of different things, and she helped me to draw some of the parallels that I was able to do at the end of Volume 2.
Okay.
And it's really eye-opening. I can't even believe that I found this information on my own and started asking questions about it, and I can't believe that she helped me as much as she did. It was wonderful. It was just wonderful.
Well, one thing that I found out recently, which blew my socks off a little bit, was that a researcher about this second great flood that you were speaking of that ended the last ice age in about 9,070 or so BC is the closest they can come to it, that the last great ice age ended in about 2 weeks' time. The climate of the planet totally changed in 2 weeks' time. So that would be a real wake-up call to us here on Earth if something like that were to happen again.
But it had nothing to do with pollution, obviously.
No, that time it didn't have anything to do with pollution. Right. But nonetheless, it did end. It is surmised, over a coronal mass ejection of great proportion, like we have never seen in
10,000 years.
In 10,000 years.
10,
now,
12,
we are in a time now of relative solar quiet, which can precede big outbursts from the sun, which could knock out all our internet and all that stuff. And then there'd be no more Shattered Reality podcast for a while or
bummer.
ever.
We could always write it by hand and mail it. No, not
mail.
even mail it.
No. So,
but we keep forgetting to ask Tom the name of his book.
yeah, we want to repeat before we say goodbye, not immediately, but shortly. We do want you to repeat the names of your books and where they can get them and all your various and sundry info there.
Okay.
Like website.
The book is entitled They Are Here, Volume 1 and Volume 2 so far. Volume 3 is going to be out shortly. Well, in a while. And it is available through Amazon.
Okay.
It is also available if you were to email me directly. And I will give it to you at a significantly reduced price. Plus, I'll also sign it for you. Now, you can contact me through Facebook was one way. My address on Facebook is tom.conwell.3. If you look that up, you're going to see me and see all my information there. And you can contact me through Facebook. Author.thomas.conwell is my author page on Facebook. And my email address is, listen carefully,
Okay.
TCONWEL2. My last name is LL, okay, but this is not my email address. It's TCONWEL2 at nycap.rr.com.
Okay. What the CPA? That's your group, the Phenomenal
The expert group.
Yeah.
You want to say
research group that you're involved with?
No. The NYCAP, the New York Capitol. That's a a Time Warner address.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So, so you obviously put a lot of time and effort and research into these books.
Yeah. When I wrote my first book, I didn't expect to write a book. I was just looking to get some information so that I could go out and do talks.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I got so much information together and found out such cool stuff that I had to put it in a book form.
Okay.
So I did. I didn't think it through as thoroughly as I probably should have, because once I did Volume 2, that's when I got all that other information in there about pollution and about Native Americans, and I did the map. I'm in the process now of doing the map for Volume 1 and putting that on my webpage, which I will give to anyone who purchases my book.
excellent?
So at least you could be an Aunt Wilma to some young fella or girl coming up in the field.
I can only hope.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we want to thank you so much for being with us today, Tom. And your work sounds just very interesting and very intense. And we hope you keep up the struggle here to get it all categorized and so forth. And we look forward to speaking to you again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I would love to be on your show again. Also, I'd like for you to consider talking to Cheryl Costa. Cheryl is doing a similar kind of research that I'm doing, and we actually found each other because we of something that she published that I had seen. Hey, I'm doing that too, and we struck up a friendship. So,
And you're both in New York State, so what could be better?
Yep, and she's a real good resource.
Yes, she is. She is. I am friends with her on Facebook, and I have sent you a friend request as well. And as long as we're talking about Facebook, I would like all our listeners to get on Facebook and like Shattered Reality Podcast. Just put those words in. We're the only ones on Facebook that are Shattered Reality Podcast. Okay? So we're going to wish you a fond farewell, temporary but necessary. And take care now, Tom.
Yeah, thanks again, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for everything.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
So, here we are on Shattered Reality once again.
Yeah, I just hope for Tom and for both of us that one day we do find out who they are.
I certainly would.
I mean, come on, really, it's getting annoying now. I mean, so like, you're flying around forever, so pop up, let us know, say hi.
You know something, Kate? I have to tell you something. You need to be careful of what you wish for, since we had an EVP last time.
Yeah, well, that's true, too.
And you're gonna be driving in a car, and you're gonna look to your right, and there's a guy's gonna be sitting right next to you. And
that's my nightmare. Actually,
yes, I know.
Oh yeah, in the back seat though, in the back seat, and I see it in the rear view mirror. It's just a nice person sitting there.
Yes.
No monster, just
a tall blonde ET.
No, actually dark-haired.
Dark-haired ET? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
but that's okay. But you're right. I do drive through some pretty dark areas on the way home.
So you have to be careful for what you wish for. We all want to see a UFO. We don't necessarily all want to get inside one.
No, not unless we're with a group of friends.
Well, even then, they separate you when you go.
No.
I'm not into that, no. Anyway, what we would like to announce is that on May 20th, 2017, we hope to see you.
Should I do the drum roll?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
We hope to see you at the Pine Bush
UFO Phenomena
Festival.
Well, it's a phenomenon.
It is a phenomenon, and
if you haven't been there, go. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really is, and good luck parking. But it's that many people there, and it's just really interesting and fun. And they have good food.
They have nice food. There's also the flying saucer diner up.
Yeah, and then they have the UFO patrol car. That was good.
That was all excellent, and people dress in costumes. So basically, what the breakdown is the daytime at the festival is generally family fun, and there are some speakers that give short presentations, and then at night there are the very serious researchers at the high school. And we're going to be there, and we're going to be talking to people, asking questions, maybe giving a little talk ourselves, and recording the responses of our listeners. So come on up there, talk to us, May 20th, Pine Bush, New York. If you're anywhere in the area whatsoever, it is a fun day out, and especially if you're interested in the UFO phenomena. In addition, there are some people who are general paranormalists, I would say, into EVPs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Pine Bush is, or was at least, a real hotspot for UFOs at one time.
Yes, it was.
It was like all the triangles seemed to be coming from there.
Yeah. During the triangle sightings, the Hudson Valley Triangle sightings flap.
Yeah.
And we're kind of waiting for a new flap to begin.
Yeah, come on. That's what I said. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well, I guess that concludes yet another wonderful session of Shattered Reality. What was that?